بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. فما بعد, my brothers and sisters, we come to the last of the 10 who were promised Jannah by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the beautiful hadith in Tirmidhi. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Abu Bakr is in Jannah, Umar is in Jannah, Uthman is in Jannah, Ali is in Jannah, Talha is in Jannah, Zubair bin Awam is in Jannah, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is in Jannah, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqas is in Jannah, and Sa'id bin Zaid is in Jannah, and Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah is in Jannah. Radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with all of them. These are the 10 people who were promised Jannah in their lifetime itself by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are the best of the best. The Sabiqun al-Awwalun min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar. These are the people who were the Sabiqun al-Awwalun. We come to the last of them, Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiyallahu anhu, who had the title of Aminul Ummah, the trustworthy trust bearer of the Ummah. Aminul Ummah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said every Ummah has an Amin, and this is the Amin of my Ummah. These are the people who came and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came and Allah sent them to be the companions and the people who were tasked with carrying the burden of the work of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of taking Islam to the whole world. Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu was also from the tribe of Quraysh, like many of these early Muslims, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given the task. Allah said, Anzir ashiratakul aqrabin, ashiratakal aqrabin, warn those who are the closest to you. So the message of Islam came to and came to be spread with and by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came to be started with the spreading to the closest of him. So therefore the people of Quraysh were the people who first came into contact and who were the first people to receive the message of Islam. We really have to appreciate and understand what kind of people these were, because these people made some sacrifices. They were put to test in a way which is unimaginable, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from all such tests. Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu, he embraced Islam. He came to Islam one day after Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu in the year 611 at the age of 28. He migrated from Makkah to Medina when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he did, and when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam arrived in Medina, he paired off one Muhajir with one Ansari, and he joined Muhammad ibn Maslama al-Ansari radiallahu anhu with Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah, thus making them brothers in Islam. And that's when the true test came, because in 624, just about a year later, 623 was the migration, 624, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu ibn al-Jarrah was one of the people who participated in the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, his father, Abdullah ibn Jarrah, who was one of the chiefs of the Quraysh. He was fighting on the side of the Quraysh. And his father attacked him several times. Abu Ubaidah Ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu tried to avoid him, tried to turn away from him and so on, but eventually he could not do that, and his father attacked him, and Abu Ubaidah Ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu, he counter-attacked, and he fought against his father, and in that interaction his father was killed. So he was killed by his own son. Now imagine what kind of emotional test that must have been, what kind of terrible test, and what a tremendous test of loyalty to Islam that must have been. And we are looking not just a question of father killing his son, but in a tribal culture where tribal loyalties were superior to everything else. In that, to be able to do that shows the commitment to Islam that Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu had. In the year 625, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu participated in the Battle of Uhud, and when Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, at that time he was not radiallahu anhu, he was not a Muslim, when his cavalry attacked the Muslims from the rear, changing the victory into defeat, the bulk of the Muslims, they were driven away from the battlefield, they ran away. But Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu Ibn Jarrah was one of those who remained firm, and he guarded Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the attacks of the Qurayshi soldiers. On that day, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu lost two of his front teeth by trying to extract two links of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's chainmail armor, which had penetrated into his blessed face bones because of the hit that he personally took from one of the enemy. So Abu Ubaidah tried to use his teeth and pull out the links. In that process, he broke two of his teeth. He also took part in the battle of 627. He took part in the battle of the trench, Ghazwatul Khandaq, and also in the expulsion of the Banu Qurayza. He was in 628. He participated in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and he was one of the witnesses on that treaty. And later in the same year, he also participated in the campaign of Khaybar. In 629, Rasulullah sent Amr ibn al-As to Dat al-Salasil, from where he called for reinforcements, and this action became known as the expedition of Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. Rasulullah sent Abu Ubaidah in command of an army that included Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma, and they attacked and defeated the enemy. Later in the same year, another expedition was sent under his command to locate the routes of the Qurayshi caravans. In 630, when the Muslims conquered Makkah, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu commanded one of the 4 divisions that entered the city from 4 different routes. Later that year, he participated in the Battle of Hunain and the siege of Taif. He was also part of the Tabuk campaign under the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On their return from the Battle of Tabuk, a Christian delegation from Najran arrived in Medina and showed interest in Islam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they asked Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to send a person to guide them in the matters of religion and other tribal affairs according to Islamic law. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu was appointed as the person to go with them and to teach them and show them. He was also sent as a tax collector to Bahrain. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away 632, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu was in Makkah. The Muslim leaders had discussions about who would succeed him, and there was some disagreement between the Ansar and the Sahaba and the Muhajirun. the Ansar convened on the same day in the meeting that came to be known as the Saqifa in the one of the camps they had, and they wanted to choose one of their own people, and they didn't want the Makkans to be in control. Among the Muhajirin, the opinions were split, and different people had different opinions. Eventually, the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was chosen as the Khalifa due to his seniority and his closeness to Rasulullah, and because of the increasingly important role he had attained in Rasulullah's last years, including the role of Imam of the people. The Quraysh backed Abu Bakr Siddiq, and so did all the people. The following day, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu took bay'ah from the people in Medina. The Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu supported Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu in all of this, including the debates and so on. After the Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu actually proposed him, Abu Ubaydah, and Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu as people who should be nominated as Khulafa. So there were three of them, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu. And then Sayyidina Umar took the hand of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, raised it up, and he said, "Who is it that will agree to lead Salah, to be the Imam, and Abu Bakr to be the Ma'mur, the person praying behind him?" And they said, "Ya Billah," I said, "May Allah protect us from this." Because Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was universally respected as the Sheikh of the Muslims, as the Naib and the deputy of Rasulullah. So people suddenly realized the reality of it, and they said, "No, we don't want to do that, and we accept." So Sayyidina Umar said, "I give my bay'ah to Abu Bakr Siddiq, and others may do the same," and people after that they did that. So and Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu was also there. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said to him, "Stretch your hand and give the bay'ah to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and because you are the interesting thing is, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu first told Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu, "You stretch your hand and let us give you the bay'ah, oath of allegiance, because you are the Aminul Ummah, that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had called you Aminul Ummah." Abu Ubaydah said, "No, I will not take the bay'ah, and I will give bay'ah to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu." And similarly, as I mentioned to you, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu offered the Khilafah, the bay'ah, to Umar or Abu Ubaydah, but both insisted on Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu to succeed. As the Ridda wars came to an end, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu dispatched 3 or 4 armies at different intervals towards Byzantine Syria to conquer that region. There are several versions about who was in the army and who went and who did, and so on and so forth. But Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu also was one of the people who was one of the commanders who was sent for that. Later on, we see from the most famous of this was Abu Ubaydah was dispatched to the Syrian front by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, and early Muslim historians they mentioned that it was in the capacity as the commander of an army of reinforcements. His arrival, they say, most likely dated to around 636, shortly after the first Muslim capture of Damascus, 635, or during the preparation to the Battle of Yarmouk. At that time, the supreme command of the Muslim armies in Syria was held by Khalid bin Walid, with Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu playing a supportive role to Khalid radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Umar may have sent Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu to assume supreme command. So there are several opinions on this and several accounts. They say that when this was done, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, even though he had the Khalifa's order to take over supreme command, he hid that order. He did not publish it to avoid insulting Khalid bin Walid and to avoid demoralizing the army before the confrontation with the Byzantines, with the Roman Empire. And then Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu eventually was given the military command, and when the Byzantine, in Yarmouk was the last battle in which the Byzantine Empire practically collapsed after that, and they needed an able administrator, and so Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu became the supreme commander, with Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid being, and he held Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid as his supporter in this whole matter. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, and the test that he faced, and this was a test in his case it was a very direct test with his own father, which had to fight him in battle. With other Sahaba, they didn't have to do that, but many of them had to leave their homes and their families because of one reason only, and that is because they were Muslim. And after this battle happened, and when Badr happened, and when Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu had been put in this position where he was forced to fight his own father and kill his father in the process, the Sahaba wept with their grief. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam embraced Abu Ubaidah and honored his pain and recognized his sincerity because this was a man of principle. He was a man of principle. That is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also revealed Quran, and Allah said, لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم أولئك كتب في قلوبهم الإيمان وأيدهم بروح منه ويدخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه أولئك حزب الله ألا إن حزب الله هم المفلحون. Allah said, you will never find a people who truly believe in Allah and the last day, loyal to those who defy Allah and His Messenger, even if they were their parents, their children, siblings, or extended family. For those believers, Allah has instilled faith in their hearts and strengthened them with a spirit from Him. He will admit them into gardens under which rivers flow to stay there forever. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. These are the party of Allah. Indeed, Allah's party is bound to succeed. And this ayat was revealed after this. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu was not flamboyant. He was not not given to making loud speeches and so on. But he didn't dress in great finery. He didn't build palaces. But his name reached every place on earth at the time. It reached every court between the Euphrates and the Nile. His people followed him, his soldiers were loyal to him, he inspired loyalty. And he was in that way, he was not just a great general, which he was, but also he was somebody who was hugely respected to the extent that Rasulullah called him Al-Aminul Ummah. And if you remember, Al-Amin, As-Sadiq wal-Amin were the titles of Rasulullah himself. And this is what he gave to Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. He was a tall, lean man with a narrow face and sunken cheeks. His humility was very visible in every campaign, whether it was Uhud, Khaybar, Khandaq, Hunayn, and so on. Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu was not only fighting, but he would fight close to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he would guard him with his own body, with his own life. As I mentioned, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu, he in the Battle of Uhud, he went and he pulled out when Rasulullah was injured, and the links of his chainmail were embedded in his cheek. Abu Ubaydah radiallahu anhu pulled them out one by one with his teeth, and in that process he broke two of his front teeth. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away, as I mentioned, the thing of the Khilafah, where Rasulullah, where Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was supported by Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah and by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, at a time when this was a potential for great conflict and great loss, potential loss for the Ummah if the matters could not have been decided and settled amicably. And these were the people who managed to do that. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu put forward Abu Ubaidah's name, as I mentioned to you, and Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu was famously supposed to have said, "Oh Abu Bakr, how can I take precedence over you? How can I prefer myself over you when you were the one that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded to lead the prayer?" He won practically every battle that he led. His armies won victories in Yarmouk and Fahel, conquering vast territories from the Byzantines. When Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu visited Sham, he was greeted by dignitaries in fine robes and grand homes. But he said, "Where is my brother Abu Ubaidah?" When they arrived at Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu's house, it was bare, no furniture, no gold, just a mat, a jug and a sword. Sayyidina Umar wept and he said, "The world has changed all of us except you, Ya Aba Ubaidah." Then came the year of the plague, which is called the Amwas, and this was the plague of Justinian that literally it started. Nobody knows where it started, but in Constantinople, which was at that time the biggest and most populous city literally in the world, this plague, more than 50% of the population perished in this plague. Justinian himself took ill, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him, but others, more than 50%. And it swept through the whole of Sham, the whole of Syria, and many people died in this plague. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu wrote a letter to Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu telling him to come back to Medina so that he might be safe. But Abu Ubaidah refused radiallahu anhu. He wrote back and said, "I am in the ranks of the Muslim army. I will not abandon them in their time of need. If this is my death, so be it." And it was. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu fell ill and he passed away. On his deathbed, he gathered his companions and gave his final advice. He said, "Establish prayer, fast in Ramadan, give charity, perform Hajj and Umrah, keep your promises, obey your leaders as long as they obey Allah. Do not be deceived by this world. Even if a man were to live 1,000 years, he would still end up where I am today." and he passed away in the plague of uh, Amwas in the 18th year after Hijrah at the age of 58. Imagine, this life was so short, but see what he achieved. See what he left behind. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu never craved the spotlight, never sought titles, never tried to amass wealth. He literally had nothing right to the end. But history remembers him to this day. 1500 years later, we take his name with great reverence and we say radiallahu anhu. And he was one of the people who were promised Jannah in their own lifetime. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he gave him this title of Amin ul Ummah, he said every Ummah has an Amin, and somebody who is trustworthy, and the Amin of this Ummah is Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. My brothers and sisters, we live in a time when people are hungry for people of integrity. Now think about that. Really, a man who stands out for as an example to be emulated and followed in this time is Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu, who was quiet in speech. His service spoke for himself, for him. He lost his teeth in trying to protect Rasulullah, who led armies but without ego, and he died with nothing, yet he left behind a legacy of everything. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, al-Amin ul-Ummah, the Amin of this Ummah, the trustworthy of this Ummah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us, and to especially to help us to emulate the examples of these enormous, these great people. And just just saying great is not sufficient. These are people who really, there's no way to describe them and their greatness, and what they meant to the Ummah of Rasulullah, what they meant to the Islam itself, where it was these people who were the foundation. These are the people who were the absolute foundation of this deen, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to be among those who can follow in their blessed footsteps. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to do that which is pleasing to Him, and to save us from that which does not please Him. This brings us to the end of the series of called the 10. The purpose of all of these lectures about the Sahaba of Rasulullah is twofold. One is to give us a sense of connection, a sense of belonging to something which is much greater than ourselves, something which is Islam, something which is extremely beautiful, to help us to understand that this dunya is not what this dunya seems to be, where we have these false icons and false people who are what do you call them, in false influencers. I forget the word. False influencers. This is not what Islam is. Islam is something which is true. It's not false. It is true, and it is something which does not depend on people like this or things like this. Islam is something which is true, and it is true for all time. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to understand that, and to understand that and live by this, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to live our lives the way that we have been taught to live by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to live our lives always remembering that the only thing which matters is whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted our service, accepted us or not. We ask Allah to help us to be like that and to be among those people who stood for the truth and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with, and He said about them, radiyallahu anhu wa radu an. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya rabbal alamin.